Thinking in writing. In the last month and a half, I have gone through lots of interesting discoveries about myself. Know thyself. And knowing myself lead to get the idea of the awakening and living life the best I can, and also connect to the awakening or coming up with the wisdom to understand the process of it. And fortunate or unfortunate, some of the discussion I had, especially with Christina, I have not recorded. But just this morning I was reflecting, and what I thought I should summarize here is the importance of thinking in writing. And that's the subject I posted some time ago on YouTube. Thinking in writing is to capture the essence of the ideas and wisdom in writing. And that's the practice of the company I worked at, Boston Consulting Group. And people share those key findings with the group to inspire. And from that, they develop a new idea and share that with the potential customers. The customers called perspective. It's 3 pages, a 1-page article about the findings, so that internally this company BCG capture the essence, wisdom, and summarize and share with the client, and throughout the client relationship develop the more skills, with the client, but also within BCG. And that practice I learned when it was 30 years ago or more, and I see the same happen to Eckhart Tolle. His awakening happened when he was late 20s, and over time he had discussion or sharing his idea with the people he met, and he was diligent enough to capture the learning. I noticed that I went through similar processes. In my case, that was age 52 when I had the awakening moment, and I didn't know what to do. And as much as Eckhart Tolle did, I went through lots of book readings and available information from the internet and elsewhere. So personally, that was the time about 8-10 years that I captured the essence in writing and shared that in the internet. And I captured the summary of those at my home page, and it's in the archives now. I did it in Japanese and English. Japanese, they had more interesting information that's not accessible from the English part. So that I think I did the English first and then get into the Japanese to get into nuances and the subtleties from various information sources. In case of Eckhart Tolle, he did the same, I believe, after his awakening, because I can tell that in his case, he didn't have much of a religious background, so it's much more interesting, because in my case, I started with Zen, so there was more reliance of those information, how to connect. But in his case, I believe he did do what I call triangulating, his experience, findings, what he's doing. And from his talk with the people in Zen or Christianity, or finding some literature here and there, and his inclination, I believe, was checking and balancing. I believe Daisetsu Suzuki went through the same process to get to confirm his awakening with various means. And In my case, it lasted 8, 10 years to get some closure of that by saying of the thy will be done. In Eckhart case, he was going through with more sharing with the people and also giving some teaching that he also captured. So this is thinking, writing from his dialogue with the people he met in London or elsewhere. And he decided to move to Vancouver, I believe, after a while, because after going through that and accumulating the knowledge and the experiences, I call it experience wisdom, to confirm what he teaches and how he get the response, and summarizing those thoughts in his notebook. And having done that extensively, he captured those in writing a book called Living in the Now. So the process of synthesizing, having an experience, sharing and capturing, writing in note, and over time, those references that you capture stay within yourself, even in your unconscious part. So, what's important? Let's make it visible. That's what I practice in my consulting, management consulting work with the organization, for the organization's enlightenment, awakening, and finding the passage into the future. And each individual case, we do the same. And Eckhart Tolle was going through the thinking, writing, and capturing and sharing, and at the same time talking with people later on, and seminars and so forth. In case of Daisetsu Suzuki, he did go through the similar process of his own experience, reflecting also with whatever he has gone through, mainly from Zen, but later with Christianity and Sufi and others, that uh, enriched his understanding further. And then that lasted for a long time as a Zen scholar, but uh, also capturing the common essence that he found from even my favorite poem of Kabir or Meister Eckhart, from the Christianity point of view, the Bible, and Chinese teachings from Tao Te Ching, and so on and so forth. So the process of learning that the Eckhart Tolle Daisetsu, well, in my case, it's just a nobody, but I reflect my study of Zen and related subject and awakening experience from Vipassana, and for the next 8 to 10 years to synthesize all the information and sharing with the blog with other people, and then capturing the core essence of it. So that was what happened. And then after that 8 to 10 years, I start to explore further in living life. And I had a divorce, but one of the reasons for that was to want to expand and explore while the marriage came to certain difficulty after 25 years of marriage. So that was about 10 years ago. And where I am is, and this is the point that I wanted to capture in this video. In our learning, there are certain sequence and certain way to summarize ideas and keep that in the corner of your consciousness as important information. And writing helps to accentuate that. The more we do it, and as we discuss and share with others people some of the ideas, that also is a good mechanism to assure what you are saying makes sense. First, to talk to yourself that that is what you believe in the case, and then by sharing with others, not necessarily persuading them, but trying to see the connection and see what happens. So, back to the idea of the thinking writing. Writing has proven to be a very effective means to capture the essence and have it as a piece of nugget of the treasure that later can be synthesized better as we come up with a wisdom when we talk or when we live. So what I see happening in my case, because there's analogy to other cases that I find it interesting, at the age of 73 now, I'm not writing as much because the writing takes time, and capturing the essence quickly, accentuating it, and sharing it in a YouTube is a good platform so that I can do this, but also for the other people to get some insight if they're interested. So that's the process I'm going through. A little bit lazy, but also to serve for the purpose of my clarifying the idea, but also being able to share with others. And if needed, we can use those resources to expand our conversation. So, what has been happening, going back to the point that I was talking the last month and a half or whatever, is accelerating the capturing process, synthesizing process, and developing a framework so that I can share with others with this platform of the YouTube. What is fascinating is that I see lots of things uh, getting together, gel, uh, condensed or integrated or synthesized and strengthen the basic point that I feel I'm expanding or deepening my understanding, the wisdom, how it pops up, and the process of how the wisdom pops up, and the process of sharing, and process of being able to communicate well. So the last part, the communication, what's happening is that I met Christina about 3 weeks ago, and we started to engage this interesting conversation of the awakening experience and what's the meaning of it and how I get there and how I'm practicing and where I'm going. And the last talk was about one of the talk we did was the life after awakening. And unfortunately, I did not record. And I start to record most of our conversation. I think I have 2 recordings, but this has to be another one I should have, but I was a bit lazy. So the point is, like in the case of Eckhart Tolle at Daisetsu, thinking, writing at BCG, and they're capturing and sharing those with the world. In my case, at age 73, I want to accelerate this process. And as I talk with Christina, and lots more ideas are reconfirmed and being able to share with her. And that is the point where we are now talking about how to share this with other people. So I want to, if I may, we need to go with the flow, not accelerating and thinking too much ahead of the time, but still taking this opportunity. I want to accelerate my learning because that's what I see it happening. I started to record, as an example, with the Tom Michael Peters, philosopher, and then with more related with the theme production and had some experience of awakening. So I start to capture some of that. But perhaps more importantly, because of the depth and the way that we communicated with Christina, I want to capture more of that conversation along with other development I'm going through. So what I found is a new platform of not just talking to and in YouTube capturing the element, but rather to capture those elements which seem to be accelerating from whatever the reason is, as well as the capturing the discussion with Michael Peters, as well as Christina. In my work with the companies, I often mentioned what's important should be made visible so that we can share the information whether that's the mission of each department or KPI or project they're working on, so that the key activities going on is captured in each department and then be shared with others by this transparency. So I'm seeing the same situation happening, that I have different department, YouTube department and Michael Peters department and Christina and other stuff going on, and I'm capturing all the key essences. But now things are accelerating, so I have more and more YouTube being developed. But it's fascinating, and I see this period that I'm going through is something of the important crystallizing the idea and being able to communicate with certain person. And Christina and I'm talking about perhaps expanding this sharing with a few more group of people, a few more people, so that we can all benefit from. And I can see that process of sharing this, let's call it success stories and key important information that we want to share and be able to share. And that process within the organization function, I did get involved in that process for the last 35, 40 years, so I'm familiar with it. But now I'm not outside of the organization. I'm within this setting of this new platform of the YouTube communication there, Michael Peters or Christina especially, and what may come with it, with new people joining possibly. So this become a new mini universe for me, so that the information I capture here by myself or with others can become another element of development resources to be synthesized further within myself. But as this process goes on, those key information I may have captured in the YouTube format mainly and others can become a stepping stone or the stones for other people perhaps possibly be benefit from, and then have another level of the platform, maybe YouTube, but also in a physical setting. That's what I was talking with Christina, and that would enrich not just the person level of understanding like myself and Christina and others who may be involved, so that the spreading of the idea can be um, shared with others, not in the sense of me teaching others, but rather to share the process of how I come up with the idea, capture it, and integrate or synthesize those and confirm with the experiential wisdom. And that has been going on. But now, being able to talk with Christina especially, we can expand that between me and Christina and recording that need to happen more often, but with others possibly. So let's call this like a growth of consciousness, not just within one person's case, but with others, and find the way of propagating or expanding or collectively exploring and sharing, and go through the PDCA Sila Samadhi Panya, awakening experience, wisdom generating experience, and all of that can be somehow made visible in the form of a YouTube video, and we can refer back and forth as needed. So we are developing the memory base, experiential wisdom base, and the thought pieces in a different platform. So this may look chaotic, but as I mentioned, with my work with the organization, I could successfully do it because I was outside, and all the pieces of development I understand from outside point of view, and emphasize that with my visit and with the top management, middle management, and shop floor, and across the different departments, so that people start to get the understanding of how the process of evolution is taking place in a little mini company setting as well as at the total company setting, and across the organization, and that enriched the critical mass of key issues being shared, understood, and expanding, and that excite people to find a common destiny among themselves. So that framework has been proven to me that I have been very effective in doing that. But now I'm exploring my own development with those others surrounding me. Previously, more with the books and readings and the YouTube and capturing of those. But now I'm expanding more into the next phase, so to speak, with other people and somehow capturing those in a different setting, continuation of the YouTube, but also accentuating of the mutual understanding and the wisdom that we can share and develop and confirm for each to find the destiny as much as I have been going through with my own, but maybe possibly can be done with others. So that's the idea. So what I did is to capture where I am, how things are evolving, and me to benefit from, as well as possibly others to benefit from. And if we can find the passage, each individual and collectively with others, with certain platform, certain experiential wisdom base that we can share, that will be a very interesting possibility that each person's view, destiny they want to find can be shared with others and have a platform to share what's going right and wrong and effective and not, and the experiential wisdom and all the communication that can take place. That process can be made visible with the use of the YouTube, and therefore we can assure, hopefully, individually, but also collectively, for the passage into the future that we believe in. And if we can align that and have the essence captured in this platform, I think this may be an interesting adventure to go forward. So just a little talk, one piece of the thought that I wanted to put in words, not in writing, but on YouTube. But hopefully we can make the best of what we got moving forward. Of course, independently, we'll do it. And within ourselves, we can have lots of synthesizing and so forth going on. As well as while we do it, we can share with others and have a platform to do that. And that's what I see starting to happen, that's already happening. But hopefully we can keep up with this interesting adventure into the future. Thank you.